Good evening, I'm Terry Hood.
And I'm Paul Sorrell. Topping the news tonight, an issue that touches every family in Green Country. KOTV has started a community service special project called Heads Up. We're highlighting the importance of good mental health for teenagers. Did you know that 1 in 5 teens has a diagnosable mental illness? That 2/3 of those who are ill don't get the treatment they need? And that suicide is the #2 cause of death of people 15 to 19 years of age. Heads Up will spend all this week attacking the problem and providing solutions. We begin with teen depression. Everyone experiences hard times in their life, but when they hold your emotions hostage for long periods, that's a sign of depression. 1 in 8 adolescents may have depression, but many go untreated. Some slip into depression as a result of a trauma, while others have a chemical imbalance that can be treated through medication. Either way, there is help. Jessica Seawright got that help. She's lived with depression for 6 years. While growing up, Jessica would play at O'Brien Park most every day. That is until one July afternoon when a stranger stole her innocence.
I walked over to the car because I couldn't hear, and I said, "I'm sorry." He said, "Can you tell me what the Circle K is at?" And I pointed in the direction. He goes, "I can't hear you," so I walked closer. And when I did, he put a gun up to me and said to get in the back seat of his car.
The man began to rape and beat Jessica. Then she fought back.
I kicked him really, really hard, and his head went back and broke through the back window, and he fell down into the floorboard. So I grabbed the gun, and because he dropped the gun in the seat, grabbed the gun and threw it at his head and opened the door and took off running. I never told anybody. And over a period of about 2 years, I started to have really gruesome, horrible nightmares and started to get really depressed, and then it all came back to me one day. I felt, I guess you could almost say, dirty, responsible. I felt used, and maybe this is what I was destined to be in life. This is what I deserve. I would look for ways to escape my problems, and I would go do things, maybe try drugs or alcohol or whatever, and because it was so much easier to escape that way. I got over the rape part. To where I could deal with that, I could talk about that. It took a lot longer time to deal with the depression and like my own self-worth, and not do things to degrade myself and hurt myself. Depression got really bad. I ended up in a couple of different treatment centers.
Jessica's battle with depression led to 2 suicide attempts and being hospitalized.
There were times when I just wanted to die, really, because I felt like I would never be as good as I was again. I ended up dropping out of school when I was 15. I was just so depressed.
Well, everybody hurts, but sometimes everybody cries.
Depression showed up in Sarah Marr's life 3 months ago when her family started having problems.
My family wasn't getting along, and we were all fighting, and your family is who you come home to every night, and you have to spend the most time with them, and you're supposed to be with them, and it's depressing when everybody's not getting along the way they should be. There's feelings of hopelessness and just sadness.
Sarah turned to drugs. She thought they would help ease the sadness she felt, but they only made things worse.
I thought maybe they would help a little bit, but it didn't seem to help too much. My aunt was searching through my stuff and she found a joint, and so they gave me a drug test and I failed, and they put me in rehab.
3 times a week for 2 months, Sarah went for treatment for her depression and drug problem. Her family also went to counseling together to help work on those problems that seemed to depress her.
We're doing much better now. We're all getting along, and it's a lot better. I come home, everybody's happy, we talk.
Sarah is still recovering from depression, and sometimes that can be a daily battle. But for 4 out of 5 depressed teens, the battle can be won with medication or therapy. Jessica is winning.
One day, I guess it was, I just decided I'm sick of crying. I went and I completed my GED and I got it, and I got really good scores on it. And I guess that was like the turning point. I realized that I could still do things, and I decided that I didn't want to go the way that I was going. My future, well, I never thought that I would want to get married and that I would ever really find a man I could trust and want to be with, and I still haven't found one, but I do think now that one day I'll find somebody and I'll get married and I'll have kids. I want a family. Just keep seeking help. If you don't find the right person, keep looking. You know, just don't give up. Don't sleep all the time. Don't go to bed and hide in your room.
We'll show you some sources of help in just a few moments.
Working with the Mental Health Association in Tulsa and several other mental health and educational groups, KOTV put together a package of materials for schools to tie into our Heads Up project. Almost 70,000 students in 58 school districts and private schools will be using the materials in class this week. Our education reporter Glenda Sylvie joins us now with that part of the project. Glenda?
Thank you, Terry. Broken Arrow High School kicked off Heads Up Week today with a look at depression. All second-hour classes studied a lesson plan that curriculum experts created for the study of teen mental fitness. Morning announcements included symptoms of depression and how to get help. Students received a booklet KOTV prepared providing information on a variety of mental health issues. They also performed a self-assessment of their own stress levels. Counselors say school is one of the best places to reach teenagers with the help that many of them need.
We see depression, we see eating disorders, we see anxiety, we see kids that are just stressed out about college applications, college essays, scholarships, grades. We see kids that are trying to pull themselves into the adult world way too fast.
Throughout the week, classes will discuss eating disorders, suicide, anxiety, and drug abuse. Students we spoke with acknowledged feeling a lot of pressure in their lives today. They say they're glad to have the information and find it interesting and helpful. Counselors say a major goal of Heads Up is to remove the stigma sometimes associated with mental health problems and motivate families to talk about these issues openly. And Terry, to encourage that, KOTV prepared parent booklets available in limited quantities at participating schools.
All right, Glenda Sylvie, thank you. Talking to someone about the things that we're struggling with often helps.
Many teens feel more comfortable talking to someone anonymously. So the Tulsa Helpline allows young people to discuss their questions one-on-one over the phone. And this week, the Helpline is extending its hours to handle heads-up calls. Let's go live now to the call center where Helpline's Kathy Pepito is standing by. Thanks for being with us. And Kathy, tell us what you do for heads-up callers.
Any heads-up callers who call between now and 11 p.m. or during the day will find somebody answering their calls who is trained and who is a mental health professional. We have about 5 stations here, and people can call in and know that there will be confidential, caring people here to answer their questions and to try to help them work through whatever it is. Also, we have resources in the Channel 6 viewing area to refer people to. So there's a 2-pronged effort. We'll be doing listening and interviewing, as well as making referrals and trying to link people up with resources that they need.
Kathy Pepito with Helpline, thank you so much. It's great to see those volunteers already getting to work.
You're welcome.
Now we want to give our teens a lot of ways to start talking about mental fitness. So along with the Helpline, we've set up a heads-up chat room with our website. Our webmaster, Steve Warren, is in the KOTV.com control center. Steve, tell us how it all works.
Well, Paul, our chat room just opened at 5 o'clock and will continue tonight till 11 o'clock. And it is being moderated at all times by 2 mental health professionals who have experience working with young people. And all entries are and will remain anonymous. So log on to KOTV.com. And especially if you're a teenager, if you have a question, a comment, or just want to see what other teens are saying, Also, parents, if you have a question, please log on to KOTV.com and just click on the Heads Up chat button. Paul?
All right, thank you very much, Steve. The Mental Health Association and several other social service and educational organizations worked with KOTV to put Heads Up together. Laureate Psychiatric Hospital and Clinic sponsors the project. We'll show you more of the warning signs of depression throughout this newscast and give you the helpline number again later.
Tonight, we begin Heads Up, a community service project on the importance of teen mental fitness.
In every newscast this week, we'll present special reports on topics like school violence, eating disorders, teen suicide, depression, and substance abuse.
And at the same time, almost 60 Green Country school districts and private schools are devoting extensive classroom time discussing those same subjects.
News on 6 Education reporter Glenda Silvey joins us now to show us some of what they're doing.
Thank you, Scott and Terry. We went to Broken Arrow High School this morning where teachers introduced the topic of depression. From what we saw, students are eager for the information.
First of all, I'm going to give you a brochure that talks about the different issues that face teens nowadays.
Every second-hour class at Broken Arrow High was on the same page today. Teachers set aside regular lesson plans to look into a problem many teens have or will face, depression. It's one of 5 mental health issues students will examine this week as part of the Heads Up program. Counselors say most students struggle with stress from a variety of causes. They believe schools are the best place to reach kids with the help they need.
I think students basically have a lot of misinformation. It's time to get them the facts, time to let them know where they can go for help and recommend friends that come up with the same symptoms for help.
KOTV prepared student and parent heads-up guides, and a group of curriculum experts designed lesson plans.
And we could not have done it without medications. We could have not done it without professional help. And I'm not embarrassed of that fact.
Teacher Lorraine Searide already knows the subject well, having dealt with and recovered from depression in her own family. She urged students to look at emotional problems like most other illnesses.
When people think of mental health issues, they think of psycho or wacko, and that's not right. So many things are temporary, just like you're physically ill.
Your mental fitness is just as important as your physical fitness.
Daily announcements today included warning signs about depression. The class filled out self-assessments of their own stress levels. Students acknowledged high pressure in their lives that often overwhelms them.
My mom, even, we were talking about it, and she said, you know, you go through a lot more decisions and, you know, college stuff and just all the decisions you make through school and what you're involved in.
They believe most kids are interested in mental health issues and can use the information.
I think it's a good deal. I think it'll make a lot of kids aware of what's going on and the signs of the physical and the mental things that happen when someone's mentally stressed.
Counselors hope that above all, Heads Up educates families and teachers to talk about mental health issues openly.
Remove the stigma, remove the shame, so that young adults can come forward and say, I have a problem, where do I go for help? Or I think I may have a problem, do I have it, what can I do?
Heads Up will try to answer those questions and more this week. There's also a parent booklet available in limited quantities at participating schools. Ask your school how you can get one. And there's plenty of other information in Spanish or English on the KOTV website, where the Heads Up chat room is open until 11 o'clock tonight. Scott and Terry, parents can also find books on mental health issues at special displays at Borders Books, A Novel Idea, and Barnes & Noble, as well as the Downtown Library.
It is really amazing how much stress teenagers are under these days.
Listening to them, I hope this will be helpful, and I think it will be.
All right.
Thanks,
Linda. Our Heads Up special report at 10 will tell you about what parents need to know about teen depression and introduce you to a courageous young woman who overcame it.
Once school started was really when I started to get depressed, because then I realized that I couldn't do the same things that I did before with my friends.
The Mental Health Association and several other social service and educational organizations worked with KOTV to put Heads Up together. Laureate Psychiatric Hospital and Clinic sponsors the project. If you have a teenager in your family, there's a good chance he or she is involved at school this week in a project called Heads Up.
It's designed to teach the importance of mental fitness and to help those teens who need mental health services to get them. The numbers on teen mental health show how great the need is. 1 in 5 teens has a diagnosable mental illness. 2/3 of those who are ill don't get the treatment they need. And suicide is the #2 cause of death among teens 15 to 19 years of age. In a moment, we'll show you what the schools are doing with Heads Up. But first, we focus on depression and a special young woman overcoming it. At first glance, Lisa Fisher may look like any other 19-year-old college freshman. She loves email and spends time with her sorority sisters at TU. But Lisa has overcome more obstacles in her teen years than many of us do in a lifetime.
I remember hearing a big crash, and I think that might have been when I hit the curb and went over the edge.
On August 20th, 1998, Lisa and a friend were driving to Jenks High School to attend a pep rally. They never made it. While negotiating a curve on South Yale at Signal Hill, Lisa lost control of her car. It went off the cliff and rolled 3 times, leaving Lisa trapped inside.
I didn't know. I had no idea that there was anything really wrong. I guess I just thought I was stuck in the car. I didn't know that I couldn't move. I was just thinking, gosh, my mom's going to kill me because I wrecked my car again.
Her friend escaped with only minor injuries, but Lisa wasn't so lucky.
For a long time in ICU, I guess I knew I was paralyzed, but it didn't hit me yet.
It wasn't until weeks later in the middle of the night that the truth hit her.
I started yelling and screaming because I couldn't move my legs, and I kept saying, Mom, why can't I move my legs? And, she had to calm me down and explain to me again that I was paralyzed, and that really hit hard.
Her mother, Tammy Polton, says the weeks after the accident were dark days for the family.
I remember those first couple of weeks just feeling so powerless, hopeless. And I remember one night walking in the halls. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, walking in the halls, and I was just had a blanket around me. The hospitals are always cold. I had a blanket around me, and I just walked through the halls, and I just sobbed.
Lisa spent 20 days in intensive care at St. Francis and another 2 months in Broken Arrow rehab. On November 4th, Lisa finally went home.
I stayed home as much as possible. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want people to see me in a wheelchair. I was very self-conscious. I had no self-esteem. It was really hard.
Lisa went back to school within a few weeks and was excited at first. Then more depression set in.
Once school started was really when I started to get depressed, because then I realized that I couldn't do the same things that I did before with my friends.
I knew that Lisa was depressed when I didn't think she thought she was. And I had to really encourage her to get help.
Lisa sought help and was put on antidepressant and anti-anxiety medications.
There's a stigma attached to that, and that's a shame because it's a chemical imbalance. A lot of the time it's a chemical imbalance. When you break your arm, you go to the doctor. If you're a diabetic, you take insulin. If you have depression, you go to the doctor, you take medicine.
Something else also helped Lisa, her faith in God, along with a Christian group called Young Life. The leader of Young Life visited Lisa every week and held a Bible study with her.
When my accident happened at that time, I was very upset with God, and I didn't want to turn to Him. I wanted to push Him away a lot.
They kept that spiritual part of her alive, and she needed that. We need that when we're in such desperate situations, and they helped her keep that alive.
Many people who experience depression don't get the help they need. Lisa hopes her story will inspire others to take action.
Well, I think the biggest thing is when people are depressed, they don't, sometimes they won't even realize it, or if they do realize it, they deny that they have it, and they don't want to go to anyone for help because they feel that that means that they're not able to help themselves. They're weak.
It's okay to be sad, and it's okay to be angry, and it's okay to cry, and do it. Because that's part of getting through it.
Lisa still struggles occasionally with her depression, but she's learning to hit the curveball life threw at her.
Realistically, right now, I'm hoping to be able to become fully independent, being able to transfer myself from my wheelchair to a bed or to wherever I need to.
Lisa has been an inspiration to me. When I see what she has accomplished, and I look back at those days in the very beginning, I am so proud of her, because she could have chosen not to try, and she didn't.
Lisa, we're pulling for you. And most teens experience occasional sadness or grief.
But when the warning signs of depression last more than 2 weeks, it is time to get professional help. The key warning signs are feelings of sadness or emptiness or excessive crying, significant changes in appetite and/or weight, persistent headaches, pains, or other physical problems that don't respond to treatment, feelings of restlessness or irritability, lack of energy, or feelings of fatigue, feelings of guilt, helplessness, or hopelessness, sleeping more or less than usual or waking early in the morning, loss of interest or pleasure in normal activities, difficulty making decisions, concentrating or remembering, and thoughts of death or suicide, and of course, suicide attempts.
And remember, depression is a real medical condition like diabetes or asthma, and it's highly treatable. 8 out of 10 people with depression are helped by therapy, medication, or both.
Now, almost 60 school districts as well as private. Well, 1 in 20 people are at serious risk of developing an eating disorder, mostly young women, but also men.
Heads Up, KOTV's community service project on teen mental fitness, continues this evening with a focus on eating disorders. We start with 2 courageous young women who almost died because of their obsession with food. TV, movies, and magazines bombard us constantly with the message, thin is beautiful. The message has sold more than half of all adolescent girls on the idea they're overweight and had better get on a diet. But those who take the message to heart sometimes end up starving to death. They develop eating disorders, a hidden epidemic because so few people openly talk about it. But these 2 girls are talking about it. Amanda Tate and Danielle Armstrong lived many years secretly suffering from anorexia. Now they're going public, hoping their story will save lives.
It's like a slow death. It's not one that you can just like kill yourself really fast. But I don't think people realize when they first start that it really can kill you.
I know I started becoming anorexic when I was like 5 years old. I remember being in dance class one day and looking into the mirror and being like, oh my God.
I guess mine started when I was 12 years old. I had hepatitis and lost a whole bunch of weight, and everybody was like, oh, you look so great, da, da, da. So I was like, and just started there and went downhill.
People who suffer from an eating disorder will tell you it's not about the food or the weight, for that matter. It's about control and self-esteem.
I had trauma in my life, and I liked the control, because if I couldn't control anything else around me, I could control what I ate.
I never had a problem with my weight. It just more was a matter of control and depression and everything.
Instead of feeling in control, they quickly felt helpless and trapped by habits that began to dictate their lives.
It's just like this quest for thinness becomes your whole life, and that's all you want.
I got to where I would like sit and take me an hour to eat a bagel or something like that, and it got to be kind of ridiculous, and where they'd have to like watch, sit there and talk to me to like keep me eating. And
I just realized that my whole life was like lies and deceits towards everybody else around me. But then I didn't realize I was lying, because I would start lying and I couldn't stop. It just became life.
The illness overwhelmed the girls and caused deep depression to set in.
I didn't care anymore. I mean, I went through periods where I couldn't get out of bed in the morning because I was so, it wasn't, I don't know, I felt like at a point that I didn't have anything to live for.
I am clinically depressed, and Basically, I mean, I wasn't all anorexic, you know, I was into the self-cutting.
Only when it became a matter of life or death did Amanda and Danielle finally get help.
I was told that I had about 2 more days to live.
I watched someone die over it, and that really, and I had a seizure, and from just not eating, and it makes you wake up.
I realized that I needed help when I got put in the hospital and had to be tubed. That was probably one of the worst experiences of my life.
Something just clicked in my head that I didn't want to live that way anymore.
Amanda and Danielle sought help at Laureate Hospital. They entered the well-renowned eating disorders program there and began their road to recovery. It's a daily struggle when you have an eating disorder. Every day you have to make a choice to eat. No one can make that decision for you.
I struggle with it every day. I mean, I have to stay away from the scale. I don't weigh myself or else, you know, I'll go into panic.
You can't do it for anyone else. You have to do it because you want to live, not for someone else.
Both girls now see a future for themselves. Danielle hopes to be a surgeon, and Amanda may be an eating disorders counselor.
To make a person beautiful, it's what's in here, not always on the outside, which I've come to discover.
I have a life now. I have a job. I go to school. I don't go to school at Laureate anymore. And it's better. I mean, I'm actually...
Well, it's important for teens to have options when it comes to talking about mental fitness. One option is the Heads Up chat room on our KOTV website. Our web producer, Steve Warren, is in the KOTV.com control center. And Steve, I know you guys were busy there last night.
Yes, Terry, we were very busy. We had over 92 users made up mostly of teens and their parents visit us last night at KOTV.com. And the chat room just opened at 5 o'clock, so log on to KOTV.com, go to KOTV Chats, and that'll take you right to our chat room. Our chat room is being monitored by 2 mental health professionals. They have experience working with young people. So if you're a teenager and you have a problem, have a question, please log on and talk to them. Also, parents, if you have a question, please log on to KOTV.com and talk to our mental health professionals. Terry?
All right, Steve, it's good to hear so many teens and parents are reaching out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, the teens who don't have access to a computer have another alternative. The Tulsa Helpline Call Center has extended its hours this week to handle heads-up calls. There are several mental health counselors who specialize in helping teens standing by to answer your calls. The phone number for the helpline is on your screen, 836-4357, and we'll have that number again for you later in the newscast. 58 school districts and private schools here in Green Country are using heads-up material in classes this week.
And we've also arranged for parents to get more information on teen mental health issues. Schools participating in Heads Up have limited supplies of these booklets, A Parent's Guide to Mental Fitness. Check with your school to get a booklet or visit the Heads Up section of our website where copies are available in both English and Spanish. Also, the Central Library in downtown Tulsa, Borders Books, A Novel Idea, and Barnes & Noble have set up displays of books on teen mental health.
And lots of important phone numbers on the back there, too.
Yes, there certainly are. Lots of resources in the local area. Now, Heads Up continues at 6 o'clock with a special report on how healthcare plans make it hard for teens to get the mental health services they need. The Mental Health Association and several other social service and educational organizations worked with KOTV to put Heads Up together. Laureate Psychiatric Hospital and Clinic sponsors the project.
All this week, KOTV's Heads Up Community Service Project is promoting teen mental fitness and trying to help those young people who need help get it. Now, many families don't get the help they need because their insurance plan or HMO won't cover them. News on 6 Medical reporter Kim Graham introduces us to a mother and daughter who took on their health care plan and won in more ways than one.
You can take a running start, okay? Take it hard.
Rain or shine, 17-year-old Amy Breeding is there for her soccer team. Coaching is something she takes pride in. It's also something she couldn't have handled just a few years ago. In 1996, Amy was diagnosed with anorexia and depression.
I think it was the transition of going to middle school, from elementary school to middle school, going through puberty, just body changing, having problems, understanding what was going on.
As you can see in this picture, Amy lost weight, lots of it. You can see it in her face. Amy's eyes and cheeks had the sunken look of an anorexic. She finally ended up in the hospital.
She was very close to having a heart attack. I was having a hard time realizing how serious it was, because to me she looked like she always did. But then later the doctor came in and said that they had